Hey, what's up guys? Emo Cat Dad here, hanging out with you, bringing you yet another edition of Emo Cat Dad Listens. If you're new here, then what I do is every day of 2024, I have vowed to check out a new band or artist. I check out 4 songs from across their discography, give you my initial thoughts on the songs, rank the songs, and then of course give you my overall thoughts on that day's artist based on what I just heard. As you can see right there, today's artist is Downset. So what do I know about Downset? Well, this was a suggestion from you guys, so please keep those suggestions coming. Hit the comments below. Let me know bands or artists that I absolutely need to check out at some point this year. I was told that Downset was like a early 90s metal punk hip-hop fusion, a la Suicidal Tendencies, Rage Against the Machine, bands like that, which got me really intrigued because I really enjoy both those bands quite a bit. I understand they're very socially aware. They were a bunch of Chicanos living in Southern California, I think LA specifically, from what I quickly read in their Spotify bio, writing about their life as people into heavy music that couldn't play heavy music while dealing with, oppression that they would have faced in that era. Based on the album releases, it's very clear that they had a bunch of hiatuses. Either that or they just take a really long time to put an album together. But without any further ado, enough of me yabbering on, let's look at Downset together. The first song I'm going to check out is from their self-titled debut album, and it's called Anger.
Anger, hostility towards the opposition. Anger, hostility towards...
Alright, so I'm going to be straight with you. The first minute of the song was so repetitive, it was downright annoying. Like, I was basically ready for that song to be over and almost skipped it. Luckily, after that first minute, the next 3 minutes are less repetitive. However, there is still some repetition in there. The music was kind of a thrashy hip-hop kind of flavor, like a Suicidal Tendencies, so I definitely hear that coming from Downset in this track. The lyrics definitely spoke to the oppression they faced from the police in the early 90s. What I didn't expect is this really funky bass groove. Whenever it took center stage, it stuck out, but not like a sore thumb, like a thumb going up. Downset followed up that album with their second album, Do We Speak a Dead Language, in 1996. And I checked out Empower from that album. Okay, so overall there's still lots of repetition in the song. Not nearly as much as Anger, but it's still there, and it's still pretty obvious and bugs me a little bit. But the overall sound was Rage Against the Machine with hardcore influences, and I could not get me enough of that music. Also, I didn't say this on the last track, but the rap flow was super solid. And honestly, for this being a mid-90s songs, I mean, I'm guessing they must have been major label backed, because the production doesn't sound nearly as rough as I expected it to be. Like, even some of those early Suicidal Tendencies songs from the early 90s sound rough. This is just a couple years after that, and honestly, it sounds pretty polished. Alright, so the band's third album, Check Your People, came out in the year 2000, and I checked out the cut Pure Trauma from that album. Okay, so this is just a straight up hardcore track. There's literally no hip-hop influence whatsoever. I'm kind of amazed right now, actually. The lyrics are real super dark. They're about not being able to get over the trauma you have. So I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that fact. But yeah, this was honestly just a 2.5 minute hardcore beatdown the whole time. And honestly, I dug it. Downset went on to release a couple more albums, the most recent being in 2022 called Maintain. Checked out the New Respect from that album. Okay, so I have to look this up because this really sounded like a completely different singer. Now, Downset apparently does have a different singer now, but it was the same singer as the previous records that recorded this album. It really doesn't sound like it. I don't know if he just, maybe got older. After all, it has been a 22-year gap between the release of the last track I checked out and this one. They did bring back the hip-hop flavor with this one. I would say this is similar to like a body count type beat, where it is very much like a thrashy hardcore sound, but you got like rap flow over top like that band does with Ice-T. All right, so those are 4 tracks I checked out. Let's rank them. At number 1, Pure Trauma. No doubt in my mind, I'm an emo cat dad. Listen to La Screamo. Hardcore is just a stone throw from that. So obviously the straight up hardcore banger was going to get the top spot. At number 2, it's Empower. This still had some of that hardcore flavoring, but not nearly as much. But I really liked the melding of the hip hop and the hardcore together. Like I said, like a Rage Against the Machine that, you know, wanted to sound a little bit like Hatebreed. It was good. At 3, I'm going Anger. The only thing that really held this back was the super repetitive parts, especially that first minute. If we chop that off, honestly, this is very similar to Empower. I like the messaging behind this one a little more in the bass line, so it might have been enough to get it up there. But that first minute was just... whew. And finally, at number 4, New Respect. No disrespect to Downset on this track. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy it. It's definitely listenable at the very least. It just wasn't nearly as interesting as the other 3 tracks are. And like I said, this sounds kind of body count-ish. And I've listened to a lot of body count in my day. And honestly, I'd just rather listen to body count than this. All right, so what are my overall thoughts on Downset? The musical mix of hip-hop, punk, hardcore, metal, all blends together perfectly on these tracks. Vocally, you can't go wrong with this band, whether they're doing the rap flow or the hardcore styles vocals. Both are super enjoyable, and the lyrics are super empowering. But in those same lyrics, I could use less repetition. Not one of these songs didn't have at least one section I'm like, yep, there's the repetition. I know that was like a 90s hardcore thing that happened a lot. I'm not down with it. I can look past it when the music is this good, but they could definitely have some perfect tracks if they cut down on that a little bit. Alright guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me. I'm your friendly neighborhood Emo Cat Dad. I hope you go back and check out the other 79 episodes. That's right, we hit magic number 80. So thank you guys for always coming back and checking it out. Like I said earlier, leave some comments of bands or artists I should be checking out down below. Whether they're rap, metal, punk, hardcore, pop. I'm down for it all. And while you're down there in the comments, let me know what you think of Downset. Are you an OG fan that's been around since the 90s? Let me know what other songs I should check out based on what I just said. Or did you just stumble across this because you seen the guy that talked about baby metal and The Devil Wears Prada was doing a video on this band you never heard? Are you going to check them out? I want to know that too. Be a part of the conversation, guys. But most importantly, I want you to stick around with me, and the best way to come along for the ride is simply cutting my wrist and hitting subscribe. I'm your friendly neighborhood Emo Cat Dad signing off until tomorrow. I want to hear you sad.